Good evening. Welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission's meeting for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at the Fairfax Community Center. It's located at 2335 East 82nd Street in Cleveland, Ohio. We're going to call the meeting to order. We welcome you all. We're going to take a roll call attendance. Co-Chair Adams.
Present.
Commissioner Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Chura is absent. Commissioner Early is not here. Commissioner Garrett Ferguson is not present. Commissioner Kennedy.
Present.
Commissioner Reeves.
Present.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Present.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Present.
Commissioner Wong.
Present.
And I, Commissioner Zayed, I am present. We're going to move forward to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes or discussion for the agenda? Yes?
I would like to add to new business a motion on committee membership.
Excuse me, we can barely hear down here. Can we turn up our mics?
I would like to add a motion for new business on committee membership.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so now we're going to discuss. What is the full motion?
To add,
Add it to the agenda.
Well, don't we have to vote to add it to the agenda? Yeah.
it's just adding two commissioners to a committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear down here at all. Could people? I can't hear.
You just hard to speak
Because
loud.
we're in a line and the microphones.
So there's a motion to add to add something to new business. She wants to add a motion for new membership on the accountability committee.
Was this ever even given to the chair of accountability, which is me? Who are the people?
Myself and Kate.
So this seems to be an effort to add two people that have slandered me, and so then you'll have the votes to
Okay,
remove
so
this committee
I'm
chair.
sorry, Commissioner Wong, but that
So
has
why-
nothing to do with adding this to the
I think it has
agenda.
everything to do with everything. We
Is there-
have a pending petition from a, this was never even given to me. Commissioner Benito left the accountability committee at some point a few months ago, and now she wants to come back and then bring Ms. Kennedy, who has never shown any interest in accountability.
Point
And
of
then
order,
you're gonna
this
have
is a
the votes?
discussion about a motion to add something to the agenda.
To the
We're
agenda,
discussing
yes.
the motion
Yeah, we
already,
don't
so I
need to
think it's
discuss the
inappropriate.
motion. We need to discuss adding this to the agenda. If no one has discussion, we can call for the vote. Okay?
No, does it have a second?
Yes, it does have a second. Okay. Co-Chair Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
Commissioner Wong.
Nay?
And I vote yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 1.
So that will be added to new business.
I have an agenda item, please.
What would you like to add? I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry, Commissioner Ridgway.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to move the last item under new business, motion for OPS case. I would like to move that to old business. We have dealt with this in part before. I think the very first time this was put on the table was in May of 2023. So I think we need to move it up to old business, and then the commission just needs to make a decision on what needs to be done with it.
Okay. So is there a second for that?
I second, but I have an amendment to that, please, after the second.
So we need to address that friendly amendment first. So what would that be?
The amendment is that this motion is part of accountability under Robert's rules. Because it's an accountability issue, it should go under the committee reports. Just as you see that the conflict of interest has gone under the ad hoc hiring committee, and we're not following Robert's rules. This is about, I believe, the 5th or 6th time that this motion has been put at the bottom of the agenda. It seems like that there is an effort never to present this motion, and it needs to be seen under accountability because this is a case that deals with accountability. There have been other motions that have never gone through their committees that were presented during the committee report for policy. So I'm asking merely for consistency in the application of how the motions are used, and they should be in accordance to Robert's rules, which we are in violation of.
Okay, before we move for a second, we're going to let our attorney speak on that.
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
Hi, can you hear me down there, Commissioner Wong?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Martin Bila. I'm the attorney for the CPC through the city's law department. Speaking specifically about how motions get added to the agenda, where they get placed. If a motion had previously failed in a prior meeting, that motion comes back per Robert rules under new business, right? So if they did not get to that motion and it never was voted on, then that would be an old business. So technically anything that's carried over from a previous meeting gets put into old business, but if something had failed in a vote and it's coming back again, it's going to go under new business per Robert's rules. And second, if something is going to come up under a certain committee, that means that the committee has approved that motion to move through to the full commission, from my understanding. So if a motion is going to be placed under a committee, it's because that committee has approved it, and if something is going to be coming under old business, it's because they didn't get to it. But short of that, my understanding of Robert's rules would say that it would come under new business. But that's just my interpretation.
Didn't we not get to it last time, or did we get to it?
Martin, there's a correction from Jan and from me.
Jan?
I just want to thank the attorney for that clarification. I appreciate that. Then I still would like to move it up to the top of new business. This is about the 3rd meeting where it's been at the bottom and we never got to it at all. And I think that we need to put this on the table and we need to bring resolution to it. So even if we don't bring it under old business, I would like to see it come to the top of new business.
And I have something to say. This has never been presented, this motion. It has never failed. It was, when it was in accountability, it was withdrawn. It's never been presented. I've never read it because I've been blocked how many times? I mean, please don't look confused, Commissioner Zayed. I have a pretty good memory of this. So it should never, according to Robert's rules, it's just never been presented because it's been either at the end or there was a recusal process blocking this. There were all these things that were blocking it, and it's never, to my knowledge, been read. So, Martin, do you have a different memory of this? Because
Okay, so we are going to move
but
forward.
it doesn't change. So my amendment is to put it in accountability
We
where it should
understand that.
be. Martin, could you comment on that rule in Robert's rules about the committee reports, please? And where
Okay,
they
so
should be?
what we're gonna do is we're gonna vote on this
We're
motion.
going to see if there's a second.
We have an amendment.
Is there a second for the motion?
For the friendly amendment.
For the
The
friendly
amendment
amendment?
is to
Do we
move
have a
it under
second?
accountability.
Do we have
where
a
it should
second
be.
for
So
the
we can-
friendly amendment?
We can be sure to actually.
Do we
hear
have a
this.
second for the friendly amendment? There is no second. Motion dies.
Okay, so now we're on to Jan's motion to move this up to the beginning of new business. Is there a second for that motion? Was that seconded by you, Kate? Okay, it was already seconded. Is there any discussion about that? Okay, so we're going to call the vote.
I would like to make this is old business. She's saying that it's old business. I don't know why
She
it's under
changed
new
it.
I
business.
changed it.
Because of his opinion, she changed it.
But it's never been presented. This is not factually untrue. It's never.
Okay, so
The chair, we can check the minutes, and we will, but to my recollection, it has been read before this full commission, and it's been read in accountability.
It's been read and it was withdrawn.
okay, so what I'm
So it
going,
has been-
what I would like to
It
say
failed.
is this is semantics. This is a technicality. We have no other old business. If we push it to the top of new business, it's like being in old business.
I would like.
There's no old business, so we can push it to the top of new business.
I would like a I would like an explanation as to why
Okay, so
they do not.
we are gonna call for the vote.
I'm sorry, I'm asking for, the discussion's not done. I've not spoken twice. Why is it not in accountability? What is the reason for that? This is a clear
So,
accountability case.
to the commissioner, I believe
The
that
petition. No, I
Attorney
would like
Bila
Martin to
explained that.
answer. I would like Martin to answer.
He already did.
Why is it not connected to the committee report?
We're gonna
What's
call for the
committee's
vote.
Business?
We're gonna call for the vote. Commissioner Benito,
Aye.
Commissioner Chura, I'm sorry. Commissioner Donaldson, I'm sorry. Ha? Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves. Aye. Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Wong.
Abstain.
And Commissioner Zayed.
Aye.
Commissioner Adams is yes, and so motion passes 8-1. And so we will move the motion for to move OPS case up on the agenda to the beginning of new business.
It's now called to adopt the agenda with the corrections.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to call to approve the meeting agenda with the new corrections. Is there, we need somebody for, can you, does everybody, can we do a unanimous for this? Or does it have to be a roll call?
We'll just take a, do we agree, can we unanimously accept the agenda? Does anyone have any other issues? I think we
Okay,
just
so
go ahead.
that's
No.
unanimous consent. So we're going to go on to meeting decorum. Okay, so our guidelines for public comment. The purpose of public comment is to hear as many community voices and points of view as possible. In order to achieve this, please allow the please follow the community guidelines. Everyone is encouraged to participate. Please sign up prior to making a comment. Please keep the comments to 3 minutes or under. Please step to the mic, state your name and where you live. If you have already voiced your ideas, let others have an opportunity to speak. Be brief and to the point. One person speak at a time. Please refrain from side conversations. Try your best to understand the pros and cons of every perspective, not just those you prefer. Be as objective and fair-minded as you can, and there are others you can review in our agenda. So there's the decorum, and we're going to go on to, did every commissioner get an opportunity to view the meeting minutes?
Question, which meetings are we looking at
So
tonight?
to the chair, speaking with Ryan, we have sent out the March minutes. That's what you're looking at tonight, is just the meeting minutes from March's full commission meeting, not the special meeting that came after. So,
Have commissioners had the opportunity to view those notes?
I have not seen those minutes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, would it be a table, Martin?
you could defer it to
We
next.
should probably
Okay, yeah, so
table
we'll
those if
defer
they
that
haven't
to our
looked at
next
them.
meeting, once we get a chance to send out and review all of the minutes. So now we're moving on to our public comment period. First on the list is Ms. Rice.
There's a microphone.
There's a mic.
All right, thank y'all. Hello, everybody. Yes, this was actually in regards to Ms. Ferguson, Alana Garnett. I think the community is concerned about her mental illness, and we would like for her to get to a mental assessment going further. Citizens for Safer Cleveland, we're going to have a conversation with Judge Oliver, and we're also going to talk to Mayor Bibbs as well going forward, for you all to continue to do the work without the disruptions and things like that. I think for the most part, just seeing some of the behaviors, some of the videos that I've seen, still some disconnect somewhere in the communication with you all. I would just hope in the future that you all could get on the same page, because from what I'm seeing and just seeing visual, it seems like sometimes you all gang up on Ms. Wine, and I need to understand why. And it doesn't look good from the audience view when we all different nationalities sitting up there and we supposed to be representing the community. So just want to be able to understand, and hopefully you all could get on track a little bit better. Thank you. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
The next person is Cameron Damaska.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to speak on what I see as like the two urgent, sort of like main things that are happening at the commission right now that I feel the community deserves like a clear sort of like explanation to and answer to the status of. Yeah. So those are the status of the letter to Mayor Bibb to remove Terry Wong, and then also the status of the Antoine Tolbert case. So with the removal of Terry Wong, at the previous meeting, it was voted like 4-3 to send a letter to Justin Bibb calling for Terry Wong's removal. Some of the things that were raised to justify that were the specific allegation was misfeasance, and then there was also an allegation that Terry was an urgent threat to the safety of the staff, and that was a motivating factor for why the letter needed to be submitted. So we were told that the letter was going to be submitted at the end of that meeting. So I just wanted to confirm that that letter had been sent, and also what Mayor Bibb's opinions on those allegations are. I think that's really important to kind of get to the root of the problem with some of the conflict on this commission. And then also the other matter that I want to speak to is the status of the appeal that Antoine Tolbert brought forward. So the specific language of the appeal only mentioned the officer Lance Henderson, and then there was confusion and Jason Goodrick claiming that it was about Lance Henderson and all other officers involved, which does cause the request for documents to be more complicated, take longer. Tolbert clarified in the previous meeting that if there was going to be any delay in this process, to only focus on Lance Henderson in that process. So I'm just curious whether the request for documents has been updated, and also I just want to strongly urge the commission to get on record with the vote that has been on this commission for the past several months. We all know that a full vote of this commission carries authority, and you all have the authority to get unredacted documents from the city. Like, you have the authority to get that. That's in the charter. So if you all vote for that and the city is not giving you those documents, then that opens the city up to some pretty damaging legal consequences, because they are demonstrably in violation of the charter at that point. So I think this is a matter where it is very important for you all to make a decision about how these records are going to be brought forward, because you all have the authority to get unredacted records outside of the public records process, and it hasn't been tested to do that through the, you haven't tried to have a vote to actually get those records yet. I think that is something that's really important if you all do want to hear that appeal, to have a vote of the full commission. Thank you all.
The next person up to the mic, Brenda Biggerstaff.
One thing I'd like to do is state facts. So I'm going to talk to the commission, but I'm going to talk to you, sir. I was at that status hearing with the judge, Oliver, and what the issue is, there are 4 people in the law department who does redacting. Redacting takes too long. The judge needs to put in an order to unredact. And I said this to the law director, to unredact, so they can just give them what they need. So that is going forward. Ms. Weiss, I love you to death, but I disagree. Terry Wong is trying to push the Antoine Tolbert case so she can be like I did it. Terry Wong and Alana Garrett Ferguson needs to recuse themselves off that case. Garrett knows Tolbert, and I'm stating the record on that. She knows him. That's personal. Terry Wong is too eager to go after this cop. We did not make this commission and put all this stuff together to be one-sided. We did it for a just cause for the civilian and the officer. Do I agree that his information should be moved up to the agenda? I agree on that because they need to find out to see what they need to do with it. But right now they don't have the records to do what they need to do. Terry Wong needs to be removed. Alana Garrett Ferguson needs to be removed. And that's why I'm gonna stand with it, and I'm not gonna change my mind. Terry Wong is a manipulator. She's manipulated this young man, and she's trying to manipulate you. And remember, Citizens for Safer Cleveland, we stand together. We got skin in this game. Our loved ones are dead because of the police. So please, do not let anyone manipulate the truth. The truth. And I'm gonna stand on that, and I mean that. And I'm gonna go away from that. And I'm gonna bring something else to all of y'all attention. Mr. Robertson, what's the other one that took the leave?
Donaldson.
Mr. Donaldson, I'm sorry. Mr. Donaldson, when he was on leave, I talked to him. He said he went around to a lot of community meetings, district meetings, and what was said to him, that you guys are not doing what the voters voted for. So guess what? We're forced, the PAC, to do we have to go out into the community and do a conversation again because you guys do not know how to act. And once again, you keep arguing, and I've pleaded with you to stop arguing on camera. I am going to encourage Mayor Bibb, and I've encouraged the law director, Ms. Wong, that I want you and Alana Garrett Ferguson to be removed. You are a manipulator. You have harassed me when I've asked you to stop contacting me after I sent the cease and desist letter to you and to the law director. Now, this is your last and final warning. I've talked to an attorney today, and if you do it again, I'm gonna slap you with a protection order, and I'm gonna see how many people is gonna back you then.
Thank you. I think this is Lucas Wagner.
So I was at the April 17th meeting. The majority of you voted to move to executive session, which obviously within legal right to do so. The thing that was concerning to me is when you were all asked who were voting yay to explain why you were choosing to apply the law in that circumstance, no one was able to articulate it until Martin came to the table to explain it. Just kind of concerning because that means you're cutting the feed and you're removing the public. And I feel like if you're going to be doing that, it should at least be able to be articulated. That's really all I came here to say.
Thank you. Reverend Bunch.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reverend Bunch. I'm the pastor of the Fifth Christian Church in Cleveland, Ohio. I do have questions about the subpoena. I'm just not hearing nothing clear and concise. I wonder if you all are operating out of a vacuum on that, or if questions are causing a lot of pause about it. But subpoena differentiates you between yourself and what a community member can do. I can do record requests, and they can deny me all day long. But you do have subpoena power, and I'm curious how you're going to exercise it. I'm actually excited to see some of our headlines in the newspaper saying, Police Commission.
Stop. What are you saying to this request? Ohio Passport 149.43.
I'm explaining what the subpoena request means, and I'm explaining what it means in this context. I can't respond to him. She didn't have the context, that's all. Would you like to say anything else? Because I certainly would like to say that I've never contacted you.
No,
after-
Commissioner Wong, please, just, can we refrain
I've
from
not.
speaking while the public
When did
is
I
speaking?
contact you?
Please.
When? Please tell me.
Can we please?
Commissioner Wong, we do not comment
Reverend
while the
Bunch's
public is
time,
speaking. We listen to the
Can we
public.
please
Respond to
respect Reverend
him.
Bunch's
We
time?
listen to the public
I
and we're- yeah,
apologize,
thank
sir.
you.
Please continue.
Bless you, bless you. I did go to some of the committees because I wanted to see how you all were planning some of these things. The Police Policy Committee, I can tell you all are still in the workshop trying to figure out what it means to create these policies. And I noticed you all were focusing on evidentiary hearings. I do want to recommend one thing, though, that evidentiary hearing sounds like it's case by case, complaint by complaint. That's what I heard, and I definitely could be wrong. My only concern with that is, when do we attack some of the cultural issues in policing? Will you have conferences or like an issues summit within policing? One in particular, we do know now that the police doing these chases across the city are causing irreparable harm now. People are now passed on and deceased. And so to hear from some of these family members whose pain I'm sure has not been quelled by whatever relationship or things that have happened with the police and them. So I just want to recommend some type of issue summit around that. I don't think the trauma around some of these issues have gone down. Maybe the issue has passed on, or the situation has passed on, but I don't think the issue has been appropriately grieved out. And then thirdly, I can't leave you without being a pastor. There is an air of deep tension here. I do feel like you all do have some heart in this. I really do. I don't think anyone's heart is in a bad place. With that being said, I think you can practice something that police do not practice, which is transformative justice. What does it mean to come together and figure out why you are having difficult moments with each other? And if a commission meeting is at a place for you to figure that out, but if you're going to go behind closed doors, I think some type of tension temperature check would probably do you all just a little bit of good. Because you're not bad people. I think you all have some tensions you just got to roll out. I'm a whole pastor. I can't condemn nobody to hell. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. The next person is Latanya Goldsby.
Good evening. I really don't have much to say, but I echo everything that's been said tonight. I do have one question, though. I'm a little bit concerned about some of the information that's been going through the community about the hiring of Mr. Philip McHugh as one of the staff members to the, he's considered to be added as an advisor to the safety director. And so I'm wondering what will be the CPC's role in working with Mr. Philip McHugh if he is placed in that position. And given his history, I hope there's going to be some accountability attached to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move forward to the co-chair report given by co-chair Adams.
Thank you. So, I guess I'll start with so I'll go through just our regular meetings and then, I'm trying to work. All right. Actually, I'm going to go here first. All right. So I just we want to clear the air about sort of, we know that there's been an issue with records requests. That's what the status hearing was, status conference was about. And so we also know that there's been lots of discussion about the TOBA records. And so what we want to communicate literally meeting ended a little after 5 o'clock today. We met with the DOJ. Martin, Jason, Sharine, and I have been meeting with the DOJ weekly to sort out the records issue because we know that this is something that's pressing and is holding up work like completing the interviews and recommendations for the commanders. It's holding up us moving forward on the October case. It's holding up the Brady Giglio work. So we are working with them. And so where we are right now, what I want to say, and I want to be clear about this, and I want everyone to know that I'm telling you the truth, we are getting records. They are rolling in. You know, there's been a lot of back and forth, you know, city not fully complying with the judge's orders. And so I know that it's frustrating, but besides do what we're supposed to do, which is report to the monitoring team, and to express that in our weekly meetings with the DOJ, we're not more powerful than Federal Judge Oliver. So that is what we've been doing. Where we are right now is there were some, yeah, so I'll get to it, but what she wants me to say is that we specifically brought up the Tober records and specifically the Henderson records. So there is a huge request. I mean, we had a document, I think there were 26 requests in the document that we have shared with the DOJ and the law department. But we have expressed our need, particularly for the Tober records, especially Lance Henderson's records, and also the records, the disciplinary records for those commanders who apply for the positions. But we have over 20 requests with them. So we, you know, we got a little bit more information. There was about, I think they said 150 pursuit cases, so they're moving on the pursuit. They are redactions, and just one of the things that what we're really doing right now is trying to figure out an efficient process for how do we request, and then kind of what happens from there. So where we are right now is that we'll request these records. The police will then have to prepare those records, and then those records have to go to the law department if there's redactions or anything like that, and then they send them to us. We have access to a SharePoint file now with the police where they're putting records there. But as we're saying, because of, you know, I think because there's a lot of, you know, pressure on them, I think also to get the records, they kind of dumped a lot of files into the SharePoint folder, and then there was confusion about what files they actually were. So we're coming up with a process to organize those files into maybe separate folders, give them like a number, give them a code, and then we'll know exactly what is what on the SharePoint drive. There was another issue with some of the records that we requested. We did receive a letter from the city that was basically requesting 90 additional days for records that we requested months ago. And what we realized was that, and it was a kind of like lost in translation, but what the city was what they were requesting was an extension to get us those records, but it wasn't done properly. And so we had to kind of clear that up. But the gist of everything is that we are in the process of receiving records. We were told that out of the 150 pursuit cases, that 41 of those actually involved accidents. So we are getting those. Like I said, the Tober request was made on the 15th. Our understanding of that is that those records are now with the city, with the law department, and so those records are being updated, and they will be sent to us. We're going to add the codes, and then we also learned that our personnel files request, there are 580 files that were sent to, they're going to be sent to the law department. These are the ones that were called like the chief's files. So there's 585 of those. Those are going to be sent to the law department by the end of this week. And the goal is that we will get those files by the end of May. And lastly, we are hoping that we can meet with the chief next week in order to review the actual file And then what we can then do with that is share with the CPC, this is what is actually in a file, and do we need everything in the file? Because we actually haven't seen a full file yet. And then from that point on, we can be a little bit more specific in our requests, and we're hoping that if there are certain parts of files that we don't need, that we will then be able to kind of get what we need a little quicker to make the process more efficient, because it doesn't make sense to request things you don't even need, and that's not a good use of anybody's time. So what I will say in general when it comes to records, we are getting records. There are a lot of records. So, you know, I understand that it's frustrating, but this whole notion that we're not receiving records is not actually accurate. We actually have records, and they have not been fully communicating when they're uploading records, but they're there on the SharePoint drive. It's not everything that we asked for, but they're coming in, and we've asked for a lot of records. So that's on that meeting. Just because the October, that issue came up in public comment already, so I wanted to address it first. We also held on the 15th, the first meeting of all of the committee chairs. And so, you know, we're going to continue these meetings, but we did start the process of trying to figure out sort of like where there may be some overlap between committees and things like that. So we form work groups. If there's like discipline, we don't need discipline in two different committees. It's not a good use of time. So we did get to meet. We are gonna focus on our framework and make sure that we're meeting the parts of the framework that we designed so that we can get into compliance with the consent decree. And then lastly, what I wanted to mention was the meeting that we had with the mayor on April 8th. So Sharina and I were able to meet with Mayor Bibb. And one of the things that, the first things that was expressed is that the need for this to actually be a partnership. And so we addressed the community's concerns about the removal of 2 commissioners. We also discussed a lack of productivity by some commissioners. We also discussed where we are with the grants. And, you know, there was already discussion on the commission about, and I know that this is not popular, about a different approach to doing the grants. Maybe having an outside organization do them. Yeah. So that was an agreement amongst us. And then also I do want to just say, and I don't know, because Commissioner Garrett Ferguson, for personal reasons, can't be here, but we are now, grantees are getting their grant money now. So it's taken a while, but it's happening with more organizations. We learned about sort of when we can expect checks to roll out, because when grantees are completed the process, we wanted to know, like, then how quickly can we get them their money? So we learned that the checks are cut on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that within 7 days they can get their grant. So we're just trying to figure things out. Let's see. Oh yeah. And then the other thing is we are looking to have these meetings be frequent. So we're looking at something like a quarterly meeting. The mayor did express that the commission was one of his most important priorities, this police reform, and he stated that that he wants common sense, reliable, and pragmatic people onto this commission. He wants that we need common sense, reliable, and pragmatic people on this commission, and because we did inquire about, you know, what the process would be like for the 6 positions that are the 2 years. So we wanted to know sort of where they were. What we were told on April 8th was that that rollout will happen within the next couple of months, and that the process that we went through would not be the same process that they will use for this next round. And then we also discussed the status of the executive director position. And what we expressed our concerns about ensuring that regardless of what happens, that we have to be able to push the commission's work forward. And so where we ended on that, we were concerned about fairness. And so what we asked is, would the city help us through HR to find an outside firm to do the search for executive director? And that was something that we agreed to. And he agreed to extend Executive Director Goodrick's tenure, and he also requested that we do a 360 review of the commission and the staff and sort of like everything that's been happening over the years. So it's basically like we don't have a system of evaluation. So he's simply requesting that we develop some type of evaluation system for ourselves on the commission. And I don't know if I missed anything else. But that'll be the co-chair report.
Commissioner Early.
I just want to make sure that I heard this clear. So the co-chairs, you said you came to an agreement that we would have an outside firm now do the HR and hiring for the commission. Was that an agreement?
Well, it wasn't necessary. Well, we had an agreement that may be a good idea, but it has not been brought to the commission yet. So we have to decide if we want to go that route.
I have a question.
Commissioner Wong?
So it is mirroring exactly what Commissioner Early has said. I don't know if Co-Chair Adams would like to take back what he said, but what I heard was that the mayor agreed to extend Jason Goodrick by 6 months, and you guys agreed to a process. No. Again, please don't interrupt me. That's what was said, and I have the same concern because there's previously agreements made without full commission consent about our records process with the DOJ that has never come for a full commission vote at all, and now is being enforced. And I had to tell the monitor that has never been voted upon or discussed in a full commission meeting. This has never even been, you never even came to the commission and say, what are our options? We just met with Mr. Wallach. There should have been discussion in that executive session about what our next steps were. For you to go before the executive session with Mr. Wallach on April 8th and talk to the mayor with plans that I've never heard of, that I don't think other commissioners have heard of, I think that's a real misuse of your authority. So do you actually believe in collaborating with the rest of the commission, or are you collaborating with the mayor, which is fine? However, I'm hoping the mayor will listen to this, that this was not a process that was agreed upon or discussed with the full commission. I believe that the two chairs are acting arbitrarily without the commission's authority, without transparency, and this type of behavior needs to stop. I agree with you that we need to go on to a process, but how can you, even if this is the process that we agreed to in the end through this motion, what you're doing is you're creating a lot of dissent among the commission because you're not doing things with our consent or our knowledge.
I respect your opinion.
All I want to clarify, we do not exist on an island by ourselves. What we did was what are our options? May 1st is coming. We made an agreement in April of 2023. What authority he has on this is not agreed upon by everybody. What we wanted to do was make sure that our staff gets paid. I can't sign a check. No commissioner on this commission can sign a check. We have 3 staff members. We cannot hire staff. We need staff. We need someone in this position so that we can continue the business of the commission. That's just a practical, logistical thing. Like, that would be a huge blow to the commission if that position was left vacant because we want to be adversarial with the mayor. We have to be practical. We discussed options. He expressed what he could agree to, and that is exactly why we have a motion on the table so that we can discuss as a commission if that's actually what we want to do. So there's nothing going behind anybody's back on anything. When we agreed that the mayor would not get in our way if we wanted to extend Jason, no one told us to put a time frame on it. We thought because it seems like the mayor was acting in good faith, then we wanted to act in good faith as well, and we thought 6 months would be enough time to get the RFQ, to select the firm, have them search, have them interview, have them select. We thought 6 months seemed like a reasonable time frame for that. Right, and if it takes less time, then we don't need the full 6 months. So we do understand we do not make final decisions for the commission, but we do have to discuss issues that pertain to the commission so we can bring them to the commission for discussion. And so that's what we did. And so that's why we're here now. So I just want to be clear, when it comes to the records, it is what it is. Anybody on the commission can request records through the executive director, who will then send that request to the city. Everyone can do that. We meet with the monitoring team and the DOJ. So what we're doing is we're meeting with them to get the records. Whatever request is made by a commissioner, then we meet with them to figure out how we're going to get the records. That's literally all that's happening in these meetings. And as far as not bringing this up in a Wallach meeting, we're going to say this again. We said it in the meeting. It was the agreement. He was contracted to only discuss his opinion and explain it to us. That was the only thing he was able to discuss at that meeting. No, that is what he was able to discuss. And that is why we had to pass an additional motion for a separate conflict of interest so that we can contract him out for that specifically. We said in a full commission meeting, I think it was February, we had the discussion. We had to decide on how many hours we were going to ask the city to pay him for to explain the decision to us. Nothing else was supposed to come up in that meeting with Wallach. So I don't understand why we would continue to say something different to the public.
And furthermore, I think that there are decisions that are made between the parties, which are the city and the DOJ, that don't include us. We can give our input, but we do not make that ultimate decision. So a lot of times things are put in place and things are enacted, or processes are created that we don't have full control over, because that's between the parties and not a CPC issue.
I have another comment. I have another question, please.
So we are going to move on to the executive director
Co-Chair
report.
Syed, I have another question.
You've spoken twice, Commissioner
I've not
Wong.
spoken twice.
Yes, you have.
Well, I have a question.
Well, no, you've spoken twice. We're moving on.
It doesn't. I would like to know if you spoke to the mayor about Commissioner Garrett Ferguson and
Commissioner, you are out of order.
Since
You've already
he
spoken
is-
twice, and we're moving on.
Since he is the final authority on our removal.
Is this an appeal to me saying that you are out of
I'm giving
order?
an appeal because I think this is very important, because you're putting the mayor in a very difficult spot. If he is the final arbiter on who is removed, it is inappropriate for two co-chairs who are not the two commissioners to speak to the mayor, but not the two commissioners themselves.
Okay, so
I would like to know what was spoken about with regards to Commissioner
So
Garrett
I
Ferguson
want to clarify.
and the letter.
So
See if she is able to.
well, I think let me clarify real fast. Commissioner Wong, to the whole commission, I'm going to repeat what we talked about. We talked about the removal of 2 commissioners because we had just passed a motion about the removal of commissioners. The community requested that we add Alana Gary Ferguson to it. Therefore, that discussion was had with the mayor about you and Alana Gary Ferguson. And then the second part of that, we were also concerned about lack of productivity from some commissioners. That's your answer, yes. Because we weren't going to beat around the bush, we were going to be specific about what we were talking about. So yes, the motion had passed, and so we met with the mayor like a week after the motion was passed. So therefore, we had the conversation with the mayor about the motion that passed.
But you're talking to the mayor without the other commissioners. It's your narrative, your version of the facts, even for the commissioners that you perceive to have low productivity, because that is a possibility that the mayor can remove based on dereliction of duty. It is inappropriate for the 2 co-chairs to be discussing specific commissioners with the final arbiter of their removal. That would be an issue of
All right,
bias.
thank you, Commissioner Wong.
Thank you.
Well, that is definitely, you're putting him in a very bad spot.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. We're going to move on to our executive director report.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'll keep this short. We have no major budgetary purchases that at this time that are requiring a status update, other than our normal operational pay and maintenance of the office and operations. Staff update, I will take a moment to say thank you and recognize a staff member who has separated from the commission, and that's Shelley Williams. She's been the community engagement coordinator for 5 years with us, and I cannot express how impactful that has been, how many hours she spends on the phone working on your behalf to maintain relationships that are oftentimes very tenuous and stressful, and how many times she has had to mediate that with the public. And explain things that happen that people see on TV and everything else. So we are going to feel the loss of the community engagement coordinator. And I'll also say on the record it was preventable. Just like our previous separation of a staff member, this could have been prevented had we had a unified front on how we engage between staff and the commission. So thank you, Shelley, if you're watching. We're going to miss you here at the commission, and your contribution is recognized by me 100%. So that being said, we will have two open positions now, one to deal with media engagement, marketing, and written and digital communications, and another one to fill the role of direct face-to-face engagement with community members. That job will be posted as soon as Shelley's official clearance paperwork goes, so it should be up probably within 3 weeks. If anyone's interested, please pass that message along that we need someone who really has exceptional interpersonal skills that can rise to that level and fill those shoes. Records requests, I think Co-Chair Adams covered that really well. The one thing I will say is that I don't think that we're in any unique position here in Cleveland. If you've been to conferences or you watch Oversight Nationwide, this is one of the most contentious issues is flow of records. And to anyone who thought that this would be easy, I don't know how you came to that conclusion. Even before this commission was empowered under 115.5, the administration at that time had taken a hard stance on sharing any information with us. And when it comes to police reform in general across the United States, it's one of the most contentious issues is getting the records to do the work of oversight, right? So it was to be expected, and I will give this commission and these co-chairs kudos on fighting for records, right? You've made some good records requests that are in the best interest of the community and the work that you do. And I will say, having sat in all of those meetings, no one's acting in bad faith. The city is doing what the administration, it's not the whole city, right? It's the administration and key officials are resisting those records requests that they feel need to be resisted. But the DOJ and the monitor have steadfastly held their ground, argued to the court our right to these records, and it's only a matter of time before that log jam gets undone and records will flow. And once we're past this moment, we will get into a norm where it won't be this hard again. But it's not unusual for them to fight this hard at the start of something something new. So give this commission a little grace on the records, because everybody, including the DOJ and the monitor, are fighting. To the point of subpoenas, we do have subpoena power. The one thing that's left unsaid in 115.5 is what happens if you don't comply with the subpoena. It's resting with counsel. I will disclose that Martin has already worked on starting negotiations with counsel to set subpoena penalties for not complying with the subpoena, which means that very shortly, if we're able to get that through, then we will be able to have subpoenas that actually have power, right? Issuing a subpoena right now would do nothing because there is no penalty attached to noncompliance. So there's an extra legislative step that was left off of 115.5, and that's on council, and we've begun negotiations. The good news is that OPS already did this. They've already worked with council to set standards for what happens if you don't comply with an OPS subpoena. So it makes it easy because they've already asked this question and what happens. So I think it should be a quick, easy path to having this loop closed. So that way, if we choose to use subpoena as a power, we will be able to do so. So that being said, the issue of subpoena has not been lost or forgotten, and this commission has been busy doing its work, and staff, which it's our responsibility to close those loopholes, have been busy working on your behalf. And it looks like Martin wants to add to that.
Just a quick correction. I think it wasn't OPS, it was CPRB. Just a quick correction.
So CPRB. But we are working in that direction. We're aware of the issue. We've been aware of the issue, and it's something that only council can close the loop on. So there's no need for the commission to get involved. There's no need for debating it because it's not your decision how those are made. But we did start the process on your behalf to be able to, so that you can have this tool at your disposal in the near future. So I think records have been talked about enough, and I will just emphasize again, we have made it clear the highest priority for records needs to be the case that we have been petitioned to move forward with. So we have made it clear to the court, the DOJ, the monitor, that of all the records requests, if you had only finite time to accommodate one in a hurry, it needs to be the one that the public is demanding that we look at first, which is the petition for the OPS complaint related to Mr. Tolbert. So it has been a priority, and we're on it. We really are on it. So keep that in mind.
Use one of these.
Sorry, it was somebody. Consent decree matters. If you haven't been following, the 14th semi-annual report has come out from the monitor. I would encourage everyone to read it. Carl Racine and his team produced their 14th annual report. They had a meeting last evening with the community to discuss that report. We also have a consent decree mandate to have the monitor come before the commission and present that report. They have already approached me to start logistically planning for that, so I anticipate either we'll do it through a special meeting in May or at our May full commission meeting. The monitor will come in and discuss the findings and answer questions directly of commissioners at that meeting. So that's the latest on the consent decree happenings. The judge has also issued another order where to close the request loop on the record. So talking about redactions, one thing the monitoring team and the DOJ has asked for it steadfastly and fought for, and the judge has agreed, is if you're saying that these records are being delayed due to redactions, if that's the administration's stance, then you must tell the court what exactly you need to redact. So they have yet to do so. They have yet to provide an explanation of what they are redacting from commission view. So the judge has ordered that they provide that list of things that they consider to be retractable and an estimate of how much redaction needs to be done from these documents. So that is where it is at in Oliver's court. He gave them a very short window to do that, and that decision will come out in early May. So I think all this will be resolved within the next 30 days, and we'll know exactly when we're going to be delivered those records, but I don't anticipate that. I think this whole list will be cleared most likely by the end of May, barring any new requests, which will start on that 21-day timeline. So that's my report.
I'm going to add that to your report.
Thank you. We're going to go on to the committee status report. The first committee will be the Police Accountability Committee, chaired by Commissioner Terry Wong.
Thank you so much. I will just briefly go through our work groups first. Brady Giglio was on hiatus, but that is the work group to establish credibility issues with the police. My understanding is that 700 disciplinary records are coming to us. I just don't know when they're coming. But we hope to have that at this point. If the records are coming within a month, then I would suggest to the work group to use the full disciplinary records rather than the divisional notices that we have to do that list. Discipline work group, we're waiting for Martin to give us feedback on the 2 documents that have been done. Those are the manual of rules and the discipline corrective action matrix. I've not received a timeline for when that can be finished. I want to express again my concern that I believe, and this is nothing against Mr. Bilat, that he is in a wider conflict of interest. We have to remember that in normal situations, when a lawyer is conflicted out on one issue, they're usually conflicted out on all issues with regards to the client. We can discuss that later in the conflict of interest motion. And inside those things, we'd like a few other attorneys to look at that because they're First Amendment and Fourth Amendment issues. I do want to comment to the pastor about the evidentiary hearing process. That is actually under police accountability. We're in the process of reworking, I would advocate for a complete rewrite of the draft provided by Mr. Goodrick and Mr. Bilat. This was done. I recently found out the draft was drafted with members of the city law department, but no counterbalance outside of the city ecosystem. And it was done by Mr. Goodrick and Mr. Bilat, even though one of our lawyers on Brady Giglio, Mr. Mordew, who just recently wrote an amicus brief for the U.S. Supreme Court to give a sign of his capabilities as a defense attorney, offered to help in the fall with me and find an appellate attorney to write this hearing process. This hearing process probably represents the most important process outside of our rules for internal guidance that the commission can write, because the commission was founded primarily for police accountability. So I would welcome the community's input. I'm happy to give you my comments and Mr. Mordew's comments on the existing draft if you need be, and to participate in the meetings on how to comment on this draft. I did want to comment also that the subpoena process is exactly what Mr. Goodrick has stated. However, I'm concerned that he said that he has begun negotiations with counsel. I don't think that there should be negotiations on counsels because, as you know, with a subpoena, the enforcement is very important. And without an enforcement, you have no leverage. And if we are negotiating with people that have openly potentially are in adverse positions with us, I think that's very, very concerning. The last comment I want to make is about our records requests. It is one of the oldest records requests was made by the Accountability Committee, and that was to OPS and CPRB in July of 2023. That was simply for the departures for OPS and CPRB, and that means where CPRB departed from the decision of the chief or safety director. I asked for those records with the consent of the committee, specifically without the body cam information. That means that one of our oldest requests for information from the city does not require that much redaction at all, but I've not received one update or one record from that records request. And that has directly impeded our ability to understand the discipline system, because the reason that we ask for the departures is that it shows every variation, every step that can be taken when a citizen reports a complaint to OPS. So I do want to rebut this argument from, I disagree with Co-Chair Adams' characterization. I was the one that created the most of the document trail that the monitor even said helped to get the court to the point that they can advocate for us. And I can assure you that there was not an easy...
Commissioner Wong, can you please stick to the actual business of accountability,
this is an accountability,
and not your own aggrandizement, please?
Well, that is your opinion, but I think the community needs to know that what my experience, and I'm happy to give the email record for this, is that the city made numerous attempts to stop us from getting records, sometimes in coordination with our executive director. And these records requests and the arguments that they presented in court were the arguments that they made to me in email. So I would like to suggest that though we don't want to have a confrontational relationship with the city, we have to face reality that if you have records requests that are pending for over 8 months, that is a confrontational relationship. And the last thing I would like to mention is that the process for the records request, which I saw only in a filing for the federal court, was negotiated by the co-chairs without the consent of the whole commission.
Commissioner Wong,
please don't censor me on
we
this.
need the report from the Accountability Committee's work.
The Accountability Committee, because the Accountability
What work have
Committee.
you done, Commissioner
and
Wong? Please
the
stick to the work you have done.
The Accountability Committee is missing all of its records. That should tell you what is happening. It is the discipline records. It's not that they fulfill some records and not some. Yes, they fulfill some records. They fulfill them quite quickly, actually, for me. But it is the discipline records which are necessary for police accountability to even begin the work that is the primary responsibility of this commission. And it is not about my eagerness. I'm not eager at all, but I have to be kind of a
Commissioner
little
Wong,
bit
this
eager
is not the
after
time
9
for you
months.
to
No, it is.
rebut
So
comments. We need to move on to the next committee, please.
Please don't interrupt me.
We need to move on to the
Please
next
don't
committee.
interrupt
Please
me.
give other people
The Accountability Committee does not have the records to do its work.
Thank
Let
you.
us
We are-
not
we-
be-
oh, thank
Let
you.
us not be misled by what they are saying.
Okay,
The
thank you very
policy
much.
committee-
We respect
no, so
your
this is-
opinion.
so
We're
every
moving on
disciplinary document-
to the next.
Was there a limit? I was not
Yes,
done
there is a
speaking.
limit.
There
You're
is a
not
limit
giving
to
us
the
business. We are
committee
moving on.
reports. There
Thank
is
you
a
very
limit
much.
to
We're moving on to the
reports.
Performance and Evaluation
So, you can
Committee.
see.
Oh, okay, you're giving that. Okay, I'm stopped all line. So we're moving on to Budgets and Grants. Commissioner Van Leer will give that report.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll speak on behalf of Commissioner Garrett Ferguson, who's absent, and she is the chair of the committee, but I'm a member along with Commissioner Kennedy. So our main work lately has been looking at our grants process, and we do have a motion which I'd like to make. So I'll just jump right into that. So I would like to make a motion regarding the commission grants process. It should be in your packets on like the second or third page. And it's basically looking, resolving that the CPC authorizes staff in the Budget and Grants Committee to create a request for qualifications for an organization or an entity to manage our grant program. And the entity that would be responsible for duties including, but not limited to, issuing a request for proposal for grant applications from the community, pre-screening grant applications, working with the CPC to score proposals and recommend awards, administer contracts with the cooperation of the City of Cleveland's Law Department, reconcile reimbursements and or advances to grantees, monitor grant performance, create performance reports for the commission, and maintain records for auditing purposes. And we have other parts of the resolution that the contract shall be reasonable. It will be based on the lowest and best proposal of applications as determined by the full commission, and that the commission shall establish a work group of commissioners to work with staff to develop the RFQ, and that the fees to be paid to the selected organization or entity will be funded through the grants budget allocated to the CPC under Section 115.5, and that in the end, we as the commission shall retain final approval for all grant awards. So I would like to make that motion. And do we
Is
have
there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Commissioner Ridgway?
Yes, to the chairs and fellow commissioners, I am pleased to know that we are beginning to look at other options for the administration of the grant program. I do want to ask, in the development of the motion, was a threshold set for the responses that may come in? Because if not, somebody could actually ask for most of the grant money. Whether you want it to come in at 25% or 10% of that grant, if there's no threshold in there or not to exceed 25% of the grant or whatever, you may get responses that will exceed the amount you want, then you have to turn around and go back out again. So I believe that a threshold need to be added to this so that people who are responding will not go over whatever the desired amount. I do believe strongly that the majority of this grant money need to be available to the community, but I like the fact that if an organization takes this and works with this, perhaps grantees can get their funding earlier and that the whole process will be cleaner and more efficient. I just want to make sure that whatever responses come into the proposal, that those responses don't come in at a higher amount than we desire, and we don't have to turn around and go back out and bid it again.
Do you have a suggestion of how much you think it should be?
I don't have a suggestion. I hate, I have to say this, that I was not privy to the discussion, on this. Not that I could not have been. I wasn't at that meeting when it was discussed. But I just have some concern. If you have $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, or whatever, and then you ask for responses to the proposal, somebody could say, well, we'll do this for $400,000.
Well, I would.
There should be a threshold on it.
Well, we're going through a request for proposal work group, so if you'd like to join that work group through the chair of the commissioner, I would suggest maybe that would happen. We don't have a set amount. I think there might be some research we'd have to do to figure out what our thresholds are, but I think that's a decision that we can make moving forward, and I'd welcome anyone who wants to join that work group should do it.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you. So I just have a quick question. So how will the outside entity be funded? Is it within our budget? Are we going to use that line item? Because from my understanding, that's just for grants.
To the chair, to the commissioner through the chair. So that is in one of these, it says here that the fees will be paid funded through the grants budget allocated to the commission. So it comes out of the grants budget, not of our separate budget. And we did we got the opinion and the input of Mr. Bilat that based on the language of 115.5, structured as this resolution is, that's acceptable under 115.5.
Commissioner Wong.
Okay, so that's partially answered my question. So what my memory served is that we had attempted to get a grants administrator that would do most of this work, and council rejected that. And I remember the amount asked for was about $90,000. So if my math is correct, if you get someone to do this work, and they should be paid for that work, it is going to reflect almost 10% of our granting budget. And I'm concerned about this because I want as much money to go to the community as possible. I do express additional concern because when I was a member of the Budget and Grants Committee, I was able to try to negotiate with the Cleveland Foundation that they were offering a free grants administrator that was just as gratis for us. And that was uniformly rejected by the committee. So I'm very concerned now that we're taking money from the hard work from issue 24 that was meant for the community because our committee doesn't feel that they can do this work, which I understand. But so that's why I agree with Ms. Ridgway that there's no amount that's set for this, and it's going to be a bid process. The other thing I'm concerned about, as it's written, will anything that's resolved from this RFP, will it go to full commission, or is it just the Budget and Grants Committee and staff that vote for this?
So
could you answer that question
if I may,
first?
through the chair to the commissioner, we've had multiple conversations with other entities, including the Cleveland Foundation, and they are decidedly not interested in doing this work with us. So that's a very specific answer to that question. And we've talked to other entities who might have interest. So, we're going to develop the RFQ. I agree that I think we're all on the same page. We want as much of this money as possible to go to the community through grants. And I think we're hoping that this will be a process that we can come together on and sort of and figure out what is the best process, what are the criteria, what do we want this entity to do, and how much do we pay them. And I think we have lowest and best in there. So, that's our goal, is to keep as much of the money as possible for the community in these grant programs.
So as a follow-up through the chair.
No, we're going to someone else. Commissioner Reeves. Commissioner Reeves.
To the chairs, I just want to know, should this motion maybe go back to the grants committee and threshold put in before we vote on it today?
If I may respond, I would recommend that we go with the work group and figure that out. I'm concerned that if we wait, we're going to miss an opportunity. We're going to delay our grants program, and so I would very much prefer that we go to the work group and we get input there and figure it out.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Thank you, Greg, for that question. I will also want to echo Commissioner Van Leer's recommendation that the threshold be worked out in the committee to create the RFQ. I was just doing some initial Googling, and there's not one set standard. So it could take some time to establish that threshold. Another thing just to consider is that this is a competitive RFQ process. So the vendors applying know that they are competing against other vendors, and they know that they'll be selected on the lowest and best application. So there is that incentive there to be cautious as it relates to cost, right, and not inflate. I think I also want to echo everyone's concern that we want as much of the funds to go to the community as possible, but then I also want to remind everyone that the biggest reason as to why we've endeavored on this process in the first place is because the community told us that it would be better for them to employ the services of an outside agency rather than go through the city. So this RFQ is a reflection of the request from the community that we streamline the process to get this money out. And so I also want to remind us of that fact as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Wong.
So I just wanted to add, before I was cut off through the chair, it wasn't that I just approached the Cleveland Foundation. It was because I have a personal relationship with a former board member who's my mentor, and he was going to advocate for us. I'm happy to, that is a very different time from now, but it is something I'm willing to still do. If it will save the commission and the community, it will give $100,000 more to the community. I'm willing to approach this person again and see if they can go, as people always tell me, it's about relationships, and I do have a relationship with this person, and he was going to, this is a person that started multiple projects in Cleveland and has a very good relationship with the Cleveland Foundation. If you don't want me to do that, that's fine. I just think it's a shame that $100,000 is going to be, not a shame for the person working, because I think it is very difficult work, but $100,000 is going to be absent from the community. Is there any movement from council that they would up the budget to make up for the shortfall? I'm just guessing it's going to be about $100,000 because it seems like a lot of work, and I've done grantsmanship things, grant management. Is there any attempt to talk to council again about this, given the fact that I know we were not successful last time, and if you, I'm asking right now, if you would like me to go through my contact at the Cleveland Foundation, I'm willing to do so, because I think the community deserves as much of the funding as possible. But if you don't want me to do that, as I've requested the first time, which we had momentum to do this, and it was rejected because the committee wanted to do the work themselves, not realizing how much the work would be, then I'm happy not to ask the Cleveland Foundation and through this person. But I'm not promising anything, but I'm just saying that we should probably work our relationships in order to make out the best for the community at this point, because that's a lot of money, 10%.
Thank you for that comment. I believe that that's something you can discuss with the Budgets and Grants Work Group. Next commissioner to speak, Commissioner Adriana Rodriguez.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy highlighted my point of streamlining the process and why I hope we move this forward tonight.
Thank you, Co-Chair, ED Goodrick.
I just have a quick time check. You guys are only on the second committee, and you're at 7:30, so you're a little bit behind on your time here. We may end up in a situation where you're not get to your important business at the end again here. And also, the RFQ can be determined, and you're not signing a contract today, so if someone wants to talk to someone at any foundation at any time, there's plenty of time to do so. This is not a commitment to do this. This is a commitment to put it out to bid. At the end of that bid process, you can decline all bids and take another thing. You are not committed to signing any contract if you just agree to go to that bid process tonight. Also, to Commissioner Kennedy's point, which is wonderful, if you set a threshold tonight and it's too low in a competitive bid process, you will get no bids. So you will have wasted time. So without fair market research on what administrative costs might look like, setting a threshold tonight could set you at a point where this work is futile if you're not careful.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Ridgway.
Yes, just the last comment to the co-chairs. I'm not asking that a threshold be set tonight. And I think this committee can go back and discuss a threshold, in terms of what would be appropriate. And I think that any request going to any organization to help with this need to go through the committee, and I think Commissioner Van Leer has already said that they had approached Cleveland Foundation and they weren't interested in working with us. So, relationships are good, but I think for process purposes, everything needs to go back to the committee. I just raised the question of the potential, of the possibility of a threshold.
Thank you very much. Is there any more discussion on this? Okay, we're going to call the vote. Co-Chair Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong?
Abstain.
And I, Commissioner Zayed. Aye. 9-1, that passes. Do you have anything else, Commissioner Van Leer, for Budgets and Grants? No, I do not. Okay, we're going to move on to the Performance and Evaluation Committee, chaired by Adriana Rodriguez.
Thank you. So we had our first meeting on Thursday, and we're looking to have another one on Monday, and our goal is basically to utilize the rubric to review the candidates. Overall, we received most of our documents. We still have a few pending disciplinary records that we're looking to receive, and basically the status of those is that it's in the law department, and we have a few that's been uploaded to our SharePoint folder.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it. Please feel free to watch the live stream, and if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wong?
I have a question about the disciplinary records that were requested. Could you please describe them in more detail? Obviously it's for the commanders, but are there ones in addition to the ones we've already seen that have a few divisional notices for the candidates?
So it's, according to the consent decree, it's one, the DNs, as well as use of force that's required by the consent decree. So that's what was requested.
So you did not request the full disciplinary file on the officers?
Just for clarification for the full commission and the community, there are two sets of records. So I think there are these summaries that we've gotten. In the meeting today with the monitoring team and the DOJ, I asked the question of, are the summaries what the city is calling disciplinary records? And the answer was no, that when they say disciplinary records are uploaded, they mean disciplinary records have been uploaded and they are not referring to summaries. Like I said, that meeting ended a little after 5 o'clock today. So we got the information in the meeting. We have not had the opportunity to check, but the clarification was asked, and we were told that there are actually disciplinary records.
But to the chair, I'm asking, there are different types of disciplinary records.
So what I just told you is, we just got this information around 5 o'clock. So until we actually get the opportunity to look at the records, we can't tell you exactly what they are, but the question was asked, are these summaries or are these actual disciplinary records? And what we were told is that they're actually disciplinary records. I
That's
cannot
not
answer, no one can answer your question until we actually get to look at the records.
To the chair, that's not my question. I've seen a full disciplinary file. Summaries are not the proper terminology. What I'm asking is for Ms. Rodriguez, without even knowing what's given to us, to explain what records were asked for. I think she's already answered it, that it was use of force and the, what was the other one?
Are the records, yeah.
The divisional notices?
And the records for their time on the street.
So
for those as well.
The ones that were sent in the email, and I know interim executive director Jason Goodrick has sent them because I know you request, so that was one portion, as well as use of force. So we're still in the process of exploring and as well as evaluating.
So I've just
So we're
wondered-
asked for
yeah,
different sets, if that makes sense.
I'm just confirming that the full disciplinary record was now asked for on all the commander appointees. Yes or no? Because it was only for use of force and the divisional notices. That does not represent the full disciplinary record.
So
The
I
full
guess I
records have been
can
requested.
clarify, there was a notice, an email sent by interim executive director. From my understanding, it was the records as well as the use of force.
All right, would you be able to forward that email to the rest of the commission? That would be great.
Interim executive director, if you would like to forward that email or clarify at this time of what you requested.
I'm asking because it's very important to the community. We're going through a lot of effort to assess these appointees, even though we don't have final say. I think we should do it comprehensively, and it's also fair to the other
To the
officers
chair,
and
we will
candidates.
provide information on what was requested to the commissioner. Please respect the time of this agenda so that we're not in a situation where we have to have a special meeting again this month.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next committee, which is the Police Policy Committee, chaired by Pete Van Leer. Thank you, Commissioner Van Leer.
Thank you. So we are a couple areas we're going to be focusing on coming up are the camera systems and pursuit. Those are two main areas where we have GPOs. And also we have a forum that's planned tentatively pretty securely for May 30th on surveillance technology, which would include Fusus and ShotSpotter, the whole range of surveillance technology that's in use by the division. And we've got things more or less lined up. We're still nailing down a few people. We've put an invitation out. Director Goodrick today put an email out to the city. So we'll hopefully be getting somebody, we're hoping to get somebody, we want somebody from public safety or the division to be able to present on the information and then have responses. We have somebody from Cleveland State, somebody from the community, somebody from the ACLU, and potentially somebody from Case Western Reserve University involved. So we'll have more information on that going forward, but again, the tentative, fairly certain date is May 30th for that. And I know that the Pursuit Work Group has also been talking about a community forum, but it's not as fleshed out yet. So that's also going to be on our radar going forward. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the Outreach Committee, and we will have Commissioner Kate Kennedy giving that report.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not the chair, just a member. My request is that Executive Director Goodrick give us an update on the RFQ process for the community survey and the status of the list that I sent over about the vendors.
To the commissioner, the RFQ is going to be sent over to the city as soon as possible. Being short on staff, the co-chairs and I had a discussion about we may have to bump that down a notch on the priority list of everything that's happening right now. But it will move forward here and get over to the city for posting. So apologies for not having this conversation ahead of time, but.
To the co-chairs, if I'm happy to keep the ball rolling on this, so just let me know what you need from me, because we have the list of the vendors, and it sounds like the draft was agreed upon, so.
Yep.
Okay,
It's ready to
thank
go
you
to the
for
city.
that. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to move, was that all? Okay, we're going to move on to the Rules Committee with Chair Pro Tem Pete Van Leer.
So a real quick update. So our main focus has been, as with the Accountability Committee, the evidentiary hearings manual, and there's not much to report. We're still working through that. And Commissioner Wong, I'd take you up on your offer to share Mr. Mordu's edits with us and his suggestions and just his concerns so that we can all have the same information. We have a joint meeting of rules and accountability set for next Wednesday at 6, is it Wednesday? Yes, at 6 p.m. To have a discussion on this issue. And we're hoping to get that information from you, Commissioner, whether it's in the form of a draft or just simply the comments from Mr. Mordu.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Wong.
I just want to clarify, I've also left 57 comments that are overlapping with some of Mr. Mordu's comments. I'm hoping that I will send it, because this is such an important draft, I will send the link to every commissioner. So I'm hoping, I do want to go on record that this process probably should have gone through accountability. I'm concerned. I'm hopeful for the meeting that we have, and I'm hopeful that Mr. Mordu will take time out of his very busy schedule to come and talk to both committees. But what I fear is lacking is that we don't have everybody's on the same page about what the disciplinary process looks like. So I do want to suggest again for this process to be understood and why we need to design it in a particular way. If I can have the commissioners read the files I've sent out, I mean, there are 200 pages, but those are the files that explain the discipline system. And quite frankly, if you don't read those files, I think that it will be very, very difficult to have any input on the hearing process. I know that Commissioner Said, I'm sorry that you're making faces, but this is
I'm
what
smiling, Commissioner Wong.
You had these files a long time ago because you're part of the, both you and Chair Adams were part of the Accountability Committee. But again, I don't think we can be fully informed about how to design a hearing process when commissioners are not even knowledgeable about the full disciplinary process. And I hate to break it to you, it's in those 200 pages. And it's me reading those 200 pages that I was able to find information that actually, in the draft that Mr. Goodrick and Mr. Balat did, that there were errors.
Okay, thank you for that. We're moving on to the Training Committee. Chair and the Chair Pro Tem, Commissioner Benito, will give that report.
Thank you. I'm going to try to keep it brief so that we can get through the agenda. First is we are working with Commander Magoo to start the pre-planning process for the 2025 needs assessment. There was some great feedback in our last meeting where we approved the 2024 needs assessment that we want to see more community and commission involvement in the development of that. And Commander Magoo is very supportive of that, and so we are starting discussions on what that could look like. Two, we are talking about developing a joint a joint work group with the Policy Committee on bias-free policing, as we both committees are wanting to look at bias-free policy and then also training around bias-free policing. In our executive session, we agreed on doing that, and so we will be working out the details of getting commissioners on that and setting a first meeting of that. The third item is that we are looking at early summer event of the scenario-based training event. So you may have, if some of you may have been present for that, but it's an opportunity for the community to experience the scenario-based training that our training division has been doing. And they specifically look at use of force. And so it's a good way for them to get feedback from the community on that training, and then also for the community and commissioners to be able to see what that training looks like. So more information coming, but we're looking at early summer. And then finally, we have passed out of committee an annual in-service training, trauma-informed care. This helps meet the consent decree requirement of in-service that all officers receive on the topic of mental health and crisis. And so this is a 4-hour training that goes into trauma-informed care, understanding trauma as a whole, and then also understanding how officers can practice trauma-informed care, not only with the public, but also with themselves and each other. So I sent this out to the commission. I got some great feedback from Commissioner Ridgway. And so I'm going to make a motion to move this training for approval by the full commission with the suggestion of Commissioner Ridgway, which said that on the slide where it says, but there are negatives demands from your department, from your supervisor, from your peers, from your community, from your family, talking about the stresses that officers are under, to add from the consent decree. And especially in recognition that, being under a consent decree does add stress for officers. And so I thought that was a good suggestion. And so I'm putting forward a motion that the commission approve this training with the addition from the consent decree under demand negatives, which is slide 69. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or debate? Commissioner Wong?
Through the chair to the commissioner, is there, I just want to confirm that was there a committee meeting and discussion over this? Was there a work group?
There was, the process that this went through is first this was developed out of MRAC and the Adams Board, so they put together a group of experts who put together the training. Then that training was sent to the training committee of MRAC. I'm also part of that committee. I reviewed that training at that time. It was also feedback was solicited from all of the members of the training committee and then also voted on by the full MRAC. And then at that point, it has been brought to the training committee, which voted it to the commission in our April training committee meeting. So that is the approval. Oh, it also went to the training review committee through the division, to the training division.
So
I want to make sure I understand. Your question is about adding the piece about the consent decree? Yeah, Commissioner Ridgway, do you want to talk on that?
To the co-chairs and to fellow commissioners, I reviewed the documents thoroughly. In fact, as I shared with Commissioner Benito, the first part of that training that's being suggested, NAMI had already offered it, and I had participated in that a couple of months ago. But the piece that I added to, it was a list of demands that would be made on the police department, members of police officers. Some demands were coming from families, some from peer groups, some from community. I think there may have been 4, if I can recall. And what I said, that consent decree needs to be there because the consent decree also mandates what police officers should be doing as well. So I wanted that one added to the list of other demands that were there on police department.
So wait a minute, could you say it again? So are you saying, and I don't want to be out of order, are you saying that the consent decree is played as a stress tool against the officers so they can't meet the compliance?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Can you explain that to me so I can understand what you're saying?
Okay. I need to probably pull it up. The training guide actually lists the different areas where there may be demands on the police, on police officers. That demands could be coming from peer group, demands may be coming from their supervisors, demand may be coming from community. And I said that I would like to see the consent decree added because we have to also meet the mandates of the consent decree. The police department has to meet those mandates as well. So I felt that the consent decree needed to be added to that list of demands. It's not about stressors, it was just a list of demands that would be made on police officers.
Yeah, so to clarify, the other things on the list are, but there are demands from your department, from your supervisor. Sorry, what?
My phone is dead, so
Can I just clarify? What I heard is that in this trauma-informed care, there's a list of the different areas or groups that would have to require things of the police. They're calling them demands. So it could be like your peer group, it could be the community's demanding things, your supervisors are demanding things from you, your family. What Commissioner Ridgway said was that the consent decree is important. And so if we're going to require things and demand things, you know, that police have to do, that the consent decree should be added so that the requirements of the consent decree are also being addressed by the police. That's what I heard.
Yes.
So are they going to say it's a stressor?
No, I don't.
No.
No.
Okay, that's what
It's just like, you know, if you have a position, there are things that you're required to do. They're calling them demands. So as a teacher, I have demands from my coworkers, I have demands from my students, I have demands from my principal, I have demands from the district. That's what's the idea behind what she was saying.
The training is about trauma-informed care. So this part of the training addresses why people wanted to go into policing and what their expectations was around what they thought they were going to be doing as a police officer. And then it's talking about like how the reality of those things might be different. And so for one of the things on this list is family, right? So it's not saying that families are bad, right? So the things on this list are not a negative thing. So the department, supervisor, peer, community, and family. So none of those things we're saying are bad things. You know, it's just saying that there are demands on officers. And I think what Commissioner Ridgway is trying to say is that one of the demands on officers is the consent decree, and that it's, you know, when officers became officers, they might not have expected that demand. But
I'm sorry.
Let me. Yes.
Okay. So I think
that's not what I'm saying.
What I'm hearing is, you know, that the community that is here doesn't like that suggestion. It was a suggestion that was made. I would actually suggest that we move forward without that addition. And I appreciate where Commissioner Ridgway was coming from, and trying to, I think, connect that to this training, but I think that first and foremost, we are here to represent the community, and if we're getting the feedback in the moment that they don't like that, then I'm okay with just not moving forward on that. So
may I make one more last comment?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Ridgway?
Yeah, I just want to make one more comment. Thank you to the chair. If you were present at the meeting with Judge Oliver, there were 3 areas that they focused on: CIT, use of force, stop, search, and seizure. Those were the 3 areas. And the police will be evaluated on those 3 areas in terms of their training, in terms of the implementation of that training, all of that, and an evaluation of how well they are doing in those 3 areas. That's mandated by the consent decree. So I'm saying that if there are demands on police, whether it's coming from their commander, whether it's coming from the community, they also have demands coming from that consent decree. Because the consent decree, the assessments are not static. We saw that this time, some areas that were at maybe partial compliance now dropped. You know, so those demands are there. They must be trained. They must implement. There's some operational compliance there. So I just felt that the police department also need to understand that there are demands coming from the consent decree that they must comply with as well. But, you know, however you want to do it, I just felt that the consent decree need to be added to that, because the consent decree does require certain things from the police department, whether it's training, whether it's implementation, whether there's assessment on how well they're doing. That's the only thing I'm saying. There are all these areas, but the consent decree is also demanding, and especially in the area of CIT, use of force, and stop, search, and procedure.
You guys have got to be careful
Commissioner,
That's not what you're saying. You're going against the judge's court order. And the reason why that came about was because the investigation that took place back in 15.
okay, I'm sorry, we have to, Commissioner Benito?
However you choose to move it forward is fine. I just felt, that's why I thought the consent decree should be added. It isn't something that I'm going to belabor at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't even get my question answered from it, because I appreciate all the other comments. I just want to confirm that is this training that's going to go to the DOJ according to, if it's consent decree related, then it will go back to the DOJ, or what is the next step? And I want to confirm there was discussion in. I appreciate all our experts, but we are a community commission, and the basic requirement is that we read and we have a discussion. I want to also know what are the future plans of establishing a work group in training. That's what we have in our other committees, and that allows community members to come through those work groups and provide their input. I appreciate the experts that have given their time on this, but there's also a lot of input from people's life experiences. But could you answer those two questions, and also whether this is going to have to go through the DOJ again, this training?
Yes, once the training is approved by the full commission, at that point, it will be sent to the DOJ. The DOJ has requested that the trainings not go to them until they receive approval from the full commission. I have already explained the process that the training went through, so I'm not going to repeat myself. And I want to we only have 30 minutes and a lot more business to get through. What I'm going to do is withdraw my previous motion and enter a new motion that we can, to approve the trauma-informed care training. And then if we want to if someone wants to make a friendly amendment to make that change, then we can vote on it. But I just want to separate those two things because there is some disagreement. So I am making a motion to approve the trauma-informed care training.
Second.
And then if there are friendly amendments, they can definitely be made.
Okay. I think we could, for time's sake and to respect the time of the agenda, let's move forward with the vote. Okay, Co-Chair Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Okay, is that all, Commissioner Benito?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to move forward with the ad hoc hiring committee, and that report will be given by Commissioner Wong.
So the ad hoc hiring committee, wait, why is the conflict of interest motion under this? This is, why are there, can we merge these two? Because it's the same committee.
I think maybe they're both supposed to be under the ad hoc outside counsel committee.
That's fine.
Okay. We'll do those together.
What is the ad hoc hiring committee? That is for the ED position, right? Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was an error, and they're saying, let's just keep going with
It's just an error, so we can just move on to where it needs to be.
So I think I don't want to speak for the rest of them, but we have not met, and
Okay.
I guess the
Yes,
other
I don't
motions
know.
will deal with that, so.
Okay.
And then just a brief report on the ad hoc outside counsel committee. We had a meeting last week, finally, with our conflict of interest attorney, our attorney established based on conflict of interest, Mark Wallach. And that was to discuss the mayor's authority in appointing or rejecting our nominee for executive director. In that meeting, as one of the commenters mentioned, we went into executive session. Commissioner Rodriguez and I voted not to do that because, I don't know her reasons, but it was a surprise executive session that I felt was not valid, and also I wanted transparency for the community. So unfortunately, we cannot discuss with you what was discussed in that meeting. I didn't feel anything should be hidden from the community. It didn't seem like there was that much private information. And now the ad hoc outside counsel committee, last time I tried to introduce a motion for another conflict of interest. So I just want to give a little bit of background to the community. According to the charter, if the commission deems that there is a conflict of interest with the city on a particular matter, that the commission can, in its discretion, ask the client, name that conflict, and we would seek outside counsel. I do want to mention that that is the charter's requirement. In the American Bar Association's requirement, it's a little bit different. So I want to just propose that we are, this is a process that I believe Edie Goodrick wrote into the charter, and there have been concerns, and now I found out broadly from other commissioners whether this is the best setup, whether we should have just had an independent attorney to begin with, which was what I advocate. I believe I was the only dissenting vote in July. As much I appreciate Martin, I just didn't think that that was a very, very good setup. So this is the formation for the conflict of interest motion I'm introducing tonight. It is based on discipline. So Mr. Belat is already conflicted out based on the ED appointment with the mayor. He is also conflicted out on the records request because the city has multiply said they've sent multiple objections through the courts on our records request. And I'm trying to establish the conflict of interest for discipline. And I'll read the motion and then we can have a discussion. So the motion was sent last time. Unfortunately, it was not printed out for whatever reason. I will just read it, and I'll read it slowly so everybody can understand. So bear with me. So this is a motion to establish conflict of interest for accountability and disciplinary work. And it's being sponsored by me. So whereas in late January 2024, Assistant Law Director Martin Belat was assigned to be the Commission's attorney, and he is an employee of the City Department of Law and is supervised by Chief Assistant Director of Law Stephanie Milnick. Whereas Interim Executive Director Jason Goodrick serves as one of Mr. Belat's other direct supervisor and has the power to discipline and fire Mr. Belat. Whereas on March 5th, 2024, the Commission voted to establish a conflict of interest with the city on the issue of records, thereby excluding Mr. Belat from conducting Commission work related to records. Whereas the Commission's police accountability and discipline work is dependent and inextricably linked to access to city and division records. Whereas on numerous occasions, members of the City Law Department have stated that the Civilian Police Review Board could not enact its new discipline authority under City Charter 115.4 until the board has updated its manual, in effect stating that CPRB's manual superseded the existing city charter. Whereas on March 6, 2024, Commissioner Terry Wong asked Mr. Belat if, quote, the city charter supersedes the manual of CPRB, unquote, to which Mr. Belat replied, quote, I don't want to answer that question because I don't want to disagree with anybody in the law department, unquote. And he continued to map out the Commission's response to this issue from a disciplinary perspective. Whereas, and by the way, I have that on recording, so there's no doubt as to what he has said. Whereas on March 26, 2024, Mr. Belat stated on record in a public meeting for the Commission that he, quote, cannot speak on something that has already been thoroughly researched and spoken on by another attorney in the law department, unquote. Whereas Mr. Belat's employment by the city and his statements refusing to provide an opinion to the Commission whenever the City Law Department already has opined on an issue for other city entities indicates a conflict of interest with regard to Mr. Belat's ability to provide independent legal counsel to the Commission on accountability and disciplinary matters. Whereas the Commissioner's charter grants the Commission the power to, quote, engage outside legal services at Department of Law expense when the Commission determines in its discretion that there is a conflict of interest between the Commission's mission and representation from the Department of Law, unquote. And whereas on January 23rd, 2023, the Commission signed a contract to retain McCarthy, Levitt, Crystal, and Liftman Co. LPA as outside counsel based on conflict of interest, with Mr. Mark Wallach as lead counsel, and this contract permits the extension of an engagement with outside counsel. Now, therefore, the Commission resolves as follows. 1, the Commission delegates to Commissioners James Chura, Pete Van Leer, and Terry Wong the authority to take all actions necessary to extend Mr. Wallach's or alternate counsel's engagement, including without limitation communicating with the city, the Department of Law, and Mr. Wallach or alternate counsel regarding the terms of his engagement. No one else on the Commission or staff will take any actions relating to the engagement process. 2, the Commission further delegates to Commissioners James Chura, Pete Van Leer, and Terry Wong to act as points of contact with Mr. Wallach or alternate counsel and oversee the legal work once he has been engaged. These commissioners will provide updates to the full Commission as necessary. I do want to also add to the motion a rule that from the ABA, this is the American Bar Association. It is saying this is the rule for conflicts of interest with clients, and I would like to read that into the record. Rule 1.7, conflict of interest with current clients.
Point of clarification, is the motion completed?
She said she wanted to
I'm adding it to the motion.
So I don't understand.
I'm adding, so the client-lawyer relationship, except as provided in paragraph B, a lawyer shall not represent a client if representation involves a concurrent conflict of interest. A concurrent conflict of interest exists if 1, the representation of one client will be directly adverse to another client, or 2, there is significant risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the lawyer's responsibilities to another client, a former client, or a third person, or by a personal interest of the lawyer. B, notwithstanding the existence of a concurrent conflict of interest under paragraph A, a lawyer may represent a client if 1, the lawyer reasonably believes that the lawyer will be able to provide competent and diligent representation to each affected client, and 2, the representation is not prohibited by law. 3, the representation does not involve the assertion of a claim by one client against another client represented by the lawyer in the same litigation or other proceeding before a tribunal. And 4, each affected client gives informed consent confirmed in writing. So I think what I'm trying to, and there's a whole commentary from the American Bar Association that very amply lays it out. I also should want to say for the record, I was present yesterday when Monitor Carl Racine questioned Mr. Bilat on this very issue, and there are multiple lawyers that have stated to me, and I will have, and short of bringing them in, that Mr. Bilat is in a wider conflict of interest.
Commissioner Wong, at some point you have to limit the motion so we can see if it's seconded, and then you can have the debate. You can prove your point after you complete the motion.
So if you do not find, if the motion is not seconded, then I guess the public doesn't get the understanding.
Sorry, are you done with the motion? I mean, I don't know what's, okay.
So is there not
is there a second for the motion?
You can't talk right now, sir, sorry.
Is there a second for the motion? The motion dies. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable. I just want to say one thing for the
No,
record.
you cannot. We are moving on to the next item of business. It's just new business, and we're going on to the OPA.
This is
motion for the OPS case. Terry Wong, please keep your comments limited to the motion for the OPS case, please.
My comment is limited to the OPS case. It applies to this, that I will remind the Commission that we are held accountable for malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance in not acting according to the charter authority. This Tolbert motion, I'm very glad that it's finally come to the floor. Let me find it again, because for another reason, it was not printed yet again for the community and not posted openly on the website. So this is a motion to, and I believe we have commissioners that want to recuse themselves before this motion. So do you need to recuse yourself? I think Ms. Rodriguez has recused herself. Is there any other commissioner that needs to recuse themselves before I read this motion?
Want to recuse herself?
because this involves the, You're not? Okay. All right. So this is the motion to open review, records requests, and notification process regarding OPS complaint 2022-0116. Whereas the Commissioner's Charter grants the Commission the power to, quote, at its discretion and upon notice, hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline following any proceedings and decisions by the Chief of Police, Executive Head of the Police Force, and as applicable, the Civilian Police Review Board. Any order by the Commission to increase or impose discipline will be final, and the Chief and Executive Head of the Police Force must follow it, unquote. Whereas an OPS complaint was filed against Sergeant Lance Henderson for improper stop, improper arrest, improper procedure, and improper tow related to the arrest of Mr. Antoine Tobert on May 23, 2022. Whereas on February 14, 2023, the Civilian Police Review Board, CPRB, recommended Group 3 discipline for Sergeant Lance Henderson, badge number 9293, for improper stop and improper arrest of Mr. Antoine Tobert, as well as recommended Group 1 discipline for improper procedure and improper tow. Whereas on January 15, 2024, Safety Director Carrie Howard departed from CPRB's decision by clearing Sergeant Lance Henderson, badge number 9293, of the charges of improper stop and improper tow. Whereas the Commission's procedure 2.4.4 states, quote, per Charter 115.5, the Commission is authorized to conduct independent investigations and/or evidentiary hearings into any previously adjudicated discipline decision for the purposes of increasing discipline or initiating discipline where none was imposed. This is a discretionary power and can be initiated by the Commission or requested by a member of the public. The appeal process is not automatic and must be via petition. Petitions shall be received in one of the following ways: by a member of the public at an open public meeting, by a member of the public via a written request, by a commissioner on behalf of a member of the public. Whereas on February 1st, 2024, Mr. Antoine Tobert made a request to the Commission to review Sergeant Lance Henderson's conduct related to OPS complaint 2022-0116. Whereas the Commission's procedure 2.44 states, quote, after receipt of a petition, the Executive Director will have a legal analysis conducted of the feasibility of the request. This analysis shall be completed within 15 days of receiving a petition, unquote. Whereas nearly 2 months have passed, I guess now 3 months, since Mr. Tobert submitted his petition. Yet this analysis has not been completed by the Executive Director, and the Commission action is now needed to begin the review process. Whereas the Commission's charter in Section 115.5 provides it the authority to request and timely receive, without the need for making a formal public records request, from other city departments and offices, including the Division of Police and Director of Public Safety, information relevant to the Commission's duties that must be disclosed if requested under the Ohio Public Records Act, unquote. Whereas the Commission's charter in Section 115.5 provides it the authority to access unredacted complaints against officers and unredacted files of all closed investigations, except for information required to be withheld from persons who are not members of criminal justice agencies under the Ohio Public Records Act or the Ohio Personal Information Systems Act, as they may be amended, unquote. Whereas on March 20th, 2024, Interim Executive Jason Goodrick stated that the records request he made by himself on February 19th, 2024 for OPS complaint 2022-0116 has not been fulfilled by the city, and that is the case today. Whereas the Commission's charter in Section 115.4 requires that, quote, the Chief, the executive head of the police force, the board, and the Community Police Commission must timely and consistently notify complainants about and afford complainants the right to be heard in every step of the disciplinary process without limitation from investigation and through hearings, reviews, and internal appeals, arbitrations, and court proceedings. Complainants cannot be excluded from being informed about or from being heard during these processes and have a right to intervene, unquote. Now, therefore, the Commission resolves as follows. 1, the Commission requests the following records from OPS complaint 2022-0116 that are related to the arrest of Mr. Antoine Tolbert on May 20th, 3rd, 2022. I will add an aside, this is not the records request, it's different from what Mr. Goodrick made by himself. And the records request is as follows. Notification of investigation. Full OPS investigative report related to the disciplinary recommendations for Sergeant Lance Henderson. All body cam footage involving Sergeant Lance Henderson, officers who responded to the scene, and officers who were involved in the arrest and transport of Mr. Antoine Tolbert to Cuyahoga County Jail. The transcript of the disciplinary hearing on OPS complaint 2022-0116 with Safety Director Carrie Howard held on November 3rd, 2023. All other divisional notices related to Sergeant Lance Henderson on OPS complaint 2022-0116. This records request will be initiated by the Executive Director, who will immediately notify the co-chairs and accountability chair of any updates on the Commission's request. The Commission, via its Accountability Committee, will send also notices to Sergeant Lance Henderson, Antoine Tolbert, Interim Executive Safety Director Dornat Drummond, Chief of Police Dorothy Todd, the CPPA, and the FOP. The letter will read generally as follows and will be updated depending on the recipient. To whom it may concern, the Cleveland community...
Come on.
I'm sorry, it's...
Come on. Chairs, y'all got to get control of this, please. To the co-chairs, get control of this.
It's her motion.
We are not
She has passed the motion at this point. Now she's reading a letter. The motion
letter
has
is
already...
part of the motion.
To the Commissioner, the letter, the drafted letter is a part of the motion, so we have to let her finish her motion.
To whom it may concern, the Cleveland Community Police Commission, in accordance with authority under Charter 115.5, is writing to inform you, I'm glad you find this also amusing, the petition is writing to inform you that we have received a request to review OPS complaint 2022-0116 and the discipline issued to Sergeant Lance Henderson by the City of Cleveland. An assessment will be first made by the Commission's Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee about the disposition of OPS complaint 2022-0116. If the review moves forward beyond this stage, the full Commission will vote at a later date on whether to open an evidentiary hearing on the matter. We will keep you updated on the progress of this review. Thank you for your service and cooperation in this matter. Sincerely yours, Terry Wong, Chair of Police Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee, Cleveland Community Police Commission. I want to just note for the record that this motion is necessary to enact the full authority of the Charter and to begin the review process on our second community complaint, which is the core responsibility. Without this motion,
Okay,
there
thank
is
you,
no
Commissioner
teeth.
Wong. We appreciate that. Is there a second for this motion?
There should be no controversy for this motion.
Is there a second for this motion?
So I will
Doesn't look like
say,
we have a second for this motion. The motion dies. We're going to go on to the next item in new business. Let's call those other commissioners in, Commissioner Ridgway and Commissioner Rodriguez.
As we wait for the other commissioners to return, the reason why there's no second, literally everything that's in that motion was already requested.
this is,
It's already done.
It's already
since
been
he has
requested.
responded, that is
So-
not
And
true.
so we're going to move
In
forward.
addition to
That is,
that-
no, excuse me.
In
Commissioner
addition-
Wong,
You are out of order and you
He is
cannot
out of
speak
order.
right
He's-
now.
I'm
The
correcting
co-chair
the
is
record.
speaking.
If there is nothing harmful about this motion, then you should pass it.
To the chair,
But the
you have,
reason that
to
you
the
do
chair,
not
you
want to
have
pass
10
this
minutes
motion,
remaining
the
in
reason
this
you do
meeting.
not want to
Okay,
pass
so
this
we're
motion
gonna
is
go
you
on
do
to
not
the
want
next
people on
motion.
record about it.
To amend
And that is
something
what is
previously
happening.
adopted to extend the appointment of the interim executive director. I think Commissioner Ridgway, you are going to present that motion?
Yes, to the co-chairs and to fellow commissioners, I have been asked to present two motions. I would like to begin by saying that the two motions are related, but they will be presented separately. One will be on the extension of the interim executive director, and the other one will be on the opening or the recruitment of an organization, a HR organization, to help recruit and hire, interview and hire, to make a transparent process for the hire of a permanent director. So the first one, according to the agenda, since I said what it is, I'll just go ahead and do it according to the agenda, is to extend the appointment of interim executive director Jason Goodrick. Let me see if I got the right one here. Okay, so whereas the Commission's charter grants the Commission power to exist as an independent municipal commission with an executive director nominated by the Commission and appointed by the mayor. Whereas pursuant to that power, on January 25th, 2023, the Commission voted to hire Jason Goodrick as interim executive director and open a hiring committee to find a permanent executive director. Whereas on June 14th,
Can we just read, because this is a previously amended motion, could we just read the part that changed?
I just want to make sure that the full commission understands what they would be voting on.
Didn't they have time to, did you guys get?
Well, we have to read it into public record. You can't just let
It was read in public record at a prior meeting.
because I wrote this part of this motion.
Okay, yeah, so that part was already written, so can we just?
But they were not here. Just read it
Okay,
into
I'm sorry.
public record.
Let's
My
just.
God.
We only have 10
It's
minutes.
improper procedure that you don't read the entire
That's not
motion.
improper.
How do you
It
know?
was read. It was on the record.
Martin, should we have in public
Let her
record the
proceed.
entire
Okay, so we'll just proceed and allow Commissioner Ridgway to finish the motion.
Whereas on April 26, 2023, the Commission voted to extend Jason Goodrick's tenure as interim executive director until May 1, 2024, and the Commission will be left without executive leadership upon the expiration of this term. Now, therefore, the committee resolves to amend the February 28, 2024 motion as follows. The interim appointment of Executive Director Jason Goodrick is effective until November 1, 2024, or until the mayor accepts a commission nomination for the position of Executive Director, whichever is earlier.
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a second. Is there any discussion or debate? Okay, we're going to call for the vote.
Sorry, excuse me.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Commissioner Wong.
Could you please maintain some decorum in your dealings with me? Thank you.
No, I may not.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. All right. I would like to address the fact that how was this date picked? You stated previously in record that it was in some type of consultation with the mayor?
No,
Is
it was
that-
selected by the co-chairs. We made that date because we think that's about how long the process may possibly take.
So why is this motion not connected to the other motion completely?
Because we got legal consult from our attorney that it's best to just separate it.
From your attorney, Mr. Wallach? How can Martin be your attorney on this when he is in conflict on the ED appointment issue?
Not the ED appointment, we're talking about the
But this is connected
extension.
to the ED appointment. So you went
Okay, so
for
there
that?
was no discussion about the ED position. What the discussion
It's
with the
just about
attorney
should we
was
separate
the
motions?
best way to bring the motion forward with our goals in mind. We have to, one, extend, two, we need to open up the process to get this outside hiring firm. That was the decision that was made.
So it wasn't about anything
So, yes,
specific, it was just how
the
should the
actual
motion be
contents
presented?
of these positions was not discussed. It was like
is
how
about the-
do we break motions
There was
down?
nothing in the motion, just how it should be
No, but it
presented.
literally says
Excuse
extend.
me, that motion has been read. Was there a second to this motion?
It was second.
Okay, so it's open for discussion?
Yeah, it is open for discussion.
This is the only first time I talk because you interrupted me. I have a question. So it would seem that sometimes the commission, in my experience, has trouble fulfilling its deadlines, as evidenced by the fact that we were supposed to bring Mr. Wallach in within 30 days. That did not happen. And that seems to be a very simple task. I would like to know what is the consequence if we do not, the 6 month is here so we can open the hiring process for the executive director. What is the consequence of not fulfilling this deadline? And I'm concerned because we had already extended Jason by 1 year and nothing happened. We didn't move because we spent a lot of time fighting about like what to do about him instead of actually opening the process, which I wanted to do in December. So I would like to know, I did try to do it in December. I would like to know there's nothing in this motion that says, so we're just going to extend again after November 1st if we're not done? Is that my understanding?
All right, so we are going to call for the vote.
To the co-chairs, let me read the last sentence again, and I think that may address your question.
We don't know if we're going to do it.
And this is that the interim appointment of Executive Director Jason Goodrich is effective until November 1, 2024, or until the mayor accepts a commission nomination for the position of Executive Director.
Right, but how?
Earlier. So with setting a date, that would be your goal.
But my question is, how do we ensure that the commission, the hiring committee, can get this done before November 1st?
That is up to the hiring committee.
Okay, so we are going to, there's a call for the vote. We're going to take the vote.
Okay, so Co-Chair Adams?
Aye.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
Commissioner Wong?
No.
And I vote yes.
9-1, motion passes.
Okay, so we're going to go on to the next.
I move to extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
Maybe 10.
To the chairs, we cannot extend at rec centers. They're on a timeline, and unfortunately,
Okay, we're going
we
to
cannot
go
take
for
that.
the motion to amend something previously adopted, the ad hoc hiring committee. Jan?
I'm going to, thank you, Co-Chairs. I'm just going to read the final sentence here rather than go through those dates. Now, therefore, the commission resolves to amend the February 28, 2024 motion as follows. The interim appointment of Executive Director Jason Goodrich is effective. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same one. Wait, this is the one. Wait a minute. Thank you. Thank you. Whereas on February 28, 2024, the commission voted to reestablish and reopen its hiring committee and allow this committee to initiate the process of soliciting applications for the position of its executive director. This process.
Commissioner Ridgway, so it's, maybe we can just, because there's like a repetitiveness,
However you want to do it.
maybe we can do the now and therefore, because it basically kind of repeats it.
She would have to read it all into record.
It's the same. It has been previously
Now,
read.
therefore, the commission resolves to amend the February 28, 2024 motion as follows. The ad hoc hiring committee will initiate the process of soliciting applications for the position of its executive director. The process will include, but is not limited to, drafting a job description and liaison with the City of Cleveland HR, law, and procurement departments to select an outside independent human resources firm that will conduct a thorough nationwide search for candidates to recommend for permanent ED. Draft a request for proposal for an outside HR firm and enter into a contract with them to complete a hiring process that will end with the recommendation of a candidate to the full commission from the HR firm for its approval. So that's where that is. If the ad hoc committee is unable to fulfill its obligations to complete this task within a 6-month time frame, these duties and responsibilities will be delegated to the commission's co-chair.
I'll second.
Okay, for time's sake, would everyone be comfortable just calling for the vote?
I have a question.
Yep.
Thanks. So we should follow Robert's rules. My concern about this, and I'll keep this quick, is that we are going to without revealing what Mr. Wallach gave us in the executive session, why are we going through the HR department
If you
to select
Commissioner Wong, you can vote against it. We are calling for the vote.
I'm just putting on record that you are basically allowing the mayor to control this process
thank you very
in
much.
the city HR department. That's what I read from this motion.
We're going to call for the vote. Co-Chair Adams?
Okay.
Co-Chair Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Benito.
Aye.
Commissioner Early.
Abstain.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves.
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway.
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Aye.
Commissioner Wong.
No.
And I vote yes. Motion passes.
And then lastly, add them to the calendar. Add them to the calendar.
Okay, I think it's, I don't, can we,
I move to
yeah,
adjourn.
I'm sorry, we have to, the meeting is kind of, we may have to save this for the next meeting because,
Take 5 seconds.
okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the motion to add 2 members of the Commission to accountability.
I move to that
look, you
myself
can't- you can't
and
ram this through
Commissioner
right now.
Kennedy
We're
to
done.
the Accountability Committee.
Is there a second?
This require, no, you guys are ramming this through. It's 8:30, and there
It's a
are deep
formality.
concerns I have about these 2 commission members' integrity.
It's a formality.
And this
That's
should
why
be
she did
discussed
that.
Okay, is
publicly.
the-
She didn't
This
want
is
them on the
8:30. The meeting's ended. You haven't extended, and under Robert's rules, you have to end the meeting at 8:30. You cannot do any more business.
For the record, just so it's noted, the cram through of my removal for ED nomination happened after the meeting went over its
So,
time.
and I didn't want-
Without discussion, so there's a precedent for it
No,
already.
oh my God, Mr. Good. Martin, this is, but then you pile another motion on this, and this is very clear what is happening because they want to stack the
Okay, can we
accountability
please
committee.
call for the vote?
So we're not calling for the vote on this.
Commissioner Adams?
This is outside.
Commissioner Benito?
Aye.
Commissioner Early?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Reeves?
Aye.
Commissioner Ridgway?
Aye.
Commissioner Van Leer?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez? Commissioner Wong?
No.
And Commissioner, I vote yes.
Yep.
And that passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.